Let's talk to
Oh,
Jay
can you
in
hear me?
Utah before we go back to the interview. Jay, what can we do for you tonight?
Hey there. I
Hi.
just wanted to call in to
Hmm.
just the topic really resonated with me, and hearing Marie talk about their experiences also really resonated. I'm a late diagnosed person with ADHD as well, and after I got diagnosed, there were so many things that just like clicked. Like, what? Like, no one else experiences this. And also, I think a tricky thing, like thinking back also along those lines, is like not feeling like the what ifs of like, what if I would have gotten diagnosed earlier? Would my life have been different? You know, like things along that line. And I think the main thing that I wanted to talk about was, I guess, a problem that I typically have in my sexual relationships. I typically participate in like ethical, like non-monogamy, and like the majority of my relationships have just been like very like long-term friends with benefits. And one thing that I don't know if this is like I have to overthink it. I have to, but I think a common thing with ADHD that Marie touched on was like hyper focusing on like, okay, like I have to ask about this and ask about that, and like whether it's like STIs, and have they been screened recently, and pregnancy, and you know, like all of these, and consent, and what things do they like, what things do they not like, and making sure to get everything on the table. And sometimes that's a really big turnoff, I guess, for a lot of people. But for me, it's like this is what I want to know, like to fully be like mentally engaged with this person. And when that doesn't follow through, or like when that isn't reciprocated, I feel like this really big sense of like I've looked it up online and done like some there's some research articles that have been written about it. I'm sure Christy, you can speak more about it, but like the idea of justice sensitivity, and like oh, like I explicitly told them like these were my boundaries and these are the things I'm comfortable with and what I expect out of this relationship, and they go around and they just disregard all like everything that I just told them. What's happening? So I think that's been something that's really hard to navigate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That need for very explicit communication, especially around any anxious uncertainties, like wanting to be really clear, not leaving it to chance about, well, I don't want to offend this person by talking about their STI health or their, most recent tests or things like that. That's going to be especially hard for somebody who's neurodivergent, and also just bad advice as a person. Like there's so much value in being explicit in the way that we communicate with each other. I think it's one of the reasons that you see in poly communities and in kink communities a lot of people who are neurodivergent, because there's so much explicit and intentional communication, as opposed to what is sort of like culturally assumed in much more conventional relationships.
Hmm. I know that I'm finding it very difficult in the last few months to watch TV where anyone is getting into a kind of a sexual relationship without talking about it, which is, I don't know, all TV ever.
All TV
Like,
ever, yeah.
you're just like, look at that body, and then you just like jump on it, and then they perform sex, which usually involves a penis going into the vagina, and then that vagina orgasming upon contact. So it's like, yeah, it's just it's bullshit. And like, and I'm yeah, I'm trying to continually add more explicit conversation to sexual encounters, and I can relate a lot to what you're saying in terms of like, in the past I wasn't explicit, and then things just happen and I just let them happen, and then I just keep betraying my body, and sex never feels quite right. And now I'm moving into a space where I'm being more explicit, and so that means that sometimes when I'm being explicit, I experience this rejection sensitivity of like, are they going to be like, oh, Marie asks for too many things, Marie's too explicit, sex is supposed to be mysterious, and like, can it still be sexy if you literally make an agenda, like, but my experience says that at first, like the transition into that more explicit communicative style is awkward, because you're not used to it. You don't see any modeling of it on TV. You certainly probably haven't seen your parents do it or anyone in your life do it, because nobody talks about sex, first of
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yep.
So how the fuck do we know what people are doing and what's normal? So like most of us, we had to learn it on our own, right? And so I'm starting to practice more explicit communication and sexual interactions. But like I said, at first it's awkward, but now I've gotten a little bit more used to it. And now I'm just like, this is the jam, man. Can you just imagine having sex and not worrying about whether the other person is like enjoying themselves, or if this is what they want to do, or if they think that, just there's so much anxiety and rumination that can come from feeling insecure and unattached in sexual interactions. And so I think it's worth it. And like tension transitioning to that style is to be expected, and it's not an indicator that you're going the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. The biggest rejection sensitivity punch to the gut I ever felt was with a hookup I once had, and I was so excited because I think it had been like maybe like around the year anniversary of when I got my IUD, and I was so excited to talk to them about it, and we're like mid having sex and me just rambling on about how my IUD is amazing and like we don't have to worry about XYZ, and afterwards, come to my surprise, they don't want to see me again, because they're like, yeah, that was like, that really turned me off. I'm like, oh, darn it. Like
addition by subtraction. That's just a good
right.
filter.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'll tell you that, just to relate to you in a very personal and very recent way, I have never really talked to a partner about my period, about period sex. Like, I only just did that maybe 3 weeks ago, because I'm going to be seeing some of my long distance partners in about a month from now. And calendar says that I'm going to have my period when I go visit them. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, now's the time to talk about this, I guess, now that we're unmasking, now that we're being more explicit. And so I had those fears of what you've experienced with that person in the IUD thing of like, if I bring up my period, are they going to be like, ew, can we just delay, ew, right? And especially if you identify as a woman and you hook up with people who are men or whatever, there's a lot of disclaimers in there, but you know what I mean? But like, if you've been socialized as a woman, you likely have internalized men's, I'm gonna say a word. I'm not committed to it, but misogyny, like men's discomfort with women, with how our bodies work, with our periods, our menstruation, even birthing children. We don't need to own that. We do not need to own that. I'm gonna find me a grown ass man who doesn't mind having. I mean, even I would even be fine if he didn't want to have sex, when I'm having my period, and that would be okay. Like, it's just a matter of talking about it, but not being shamed that my body's disgusting or something like that. Like, all of this can be discussed, and I think maybe that's the most important thing. Not necessarily that the other person is like, yeah, I'll do anything and everything, and you can talk about everything and nothing grosses me out, and I accept everything about you, and I have no boundaries at all, and you're great. But so more so just feeling like you can talk about these things, and that your opinion is important, and that their opinion is important, that you respect each other's boundaries, and that you can have that conversation, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, being able to just communicate around it and acknowledge that there's a conversation to be had is so valuable.
Definitely. I think that idea of like the you factor and the rejection sensitivity around that had brought up like typically like it's been 2 years, I don't know when I'm going to have another like romantic partner again in the near future. But previously, I would wait a certain number of like hookups to like have oral sex with that person because I like was explicitly trying to avoid potential rejection sensitivity because of that internalized misogyny. So I really felt you when you said that, Marie.
I mean, I'll just extend that into body dysmorphia. Like some of the roots of my body dysmorphia have to do with my ownership of men's misogyny and their Barbie request, like and that's part of some of the paranoia that I feel about my body and my posture and the shape of my body, the way that I dress myself for the world. I know inside of me, I speak for no one but myself, that comes from owning the messages that I've ingested from society about men's discomfort with women, with their demand that women be a certain way in order to be consumable. But I'm not a goddamn edible. I'm a person. I'm a full person. I don't, yeah, that's me saying that with my words, and words mean nothing. I'm working on getting that into my body as well. And that's a tricky part. But I think one of the first steps is getting it into your words, and then hopefully later it'll merge into your body and your beliefs as well.
Very true.
Well, Jay, I so appreciate you giving us a call tonight and getting us kicked off, because we are going to continue to discuss how masking and neurodivergence shows up in our sex life.
Thank you so much.